What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today we're going to be showing you guys a Prismatic Warlock build utilizing the Getaway artist exotic arms, which I know you've probably seen around, but we are going to be giving ourselves a bunch of different little souls that we can use, a solar arc as well as one of those time souls, if you will, from our No Time to Explain. So let's get into this build. First off, we got the Getaway artist and their exotic perk, which is that dynamic duo. So convert your arc grenade into an arc soul and become amplified all at the same time. The arc soul functions as an autonomous turret, so it counts as ability defeats as well, helping us to create some orbs of power on this build, as well as do a little bit more damage because of using prismatic. So right here is our prismatic subclass that we are going to be using to get our second soul, if you will, with our solar soul in the Helion right here. Gives us that little solar mortar that tracks lobs at people, destroying them and targeting them. Very good on this build. Also went with Song of Flame for that survivability, plus helps us on our weapons to give us some more orbs of power. I really like Phoenix Dive on these builds, one because my weapon is giving us a good little bit of energy ammo back, as well as this, so we can get that cure very consistently, giving us our Helion consistently. Perfect for balance glide, just getting you around, nothing too crazy. That's why I don't like blink, strafe, anything like that. Now I went with arcane needle because we want that unravel on those enemies. We're going to create contangles with this, as well as we get 3 of these charges, so very good for applying that void, or I should say our stranded debuff on those enemies, as well as just creating a bunch of tangles for us, which we use to shoot and explode with our strand weapon. Storm grenade we're going to be using so we can convert it into those arc souls, mostly what we're going to be using it for, but we are going to be getting back our grenade very quickly, so sometimes you'll have that arc soul up and almost instantly get back your grenade, where you can throw it out and use that as the damaging aspect. Now right here we got Feed the Void. Defeating a target with our ability activates Devour. This is super important because our arc souls as well as our Helion are also counting as those abilities, so when we get defeats with any of those, we're gonna proc that Devour, helping us to stay alive in that endgame content. When we do have our Devour Frex improved, it restores health and gives us grenade energy, so you can see why this build is kind of disgusting. How you can consume that grenade to get your arc souls, probably throw another grenade out to do some damage, and then just keep on repeating that back and forth. Now when we move on to our fragments down here, first off we got Facet of Hope. Well, we have an elemental buff. Our class item regenerates more quickly, so we're going to be able to use Phoenix Dive even more often, giving us Helion all the time and that little solar orb going around us. Elemental buff pretty consistently as well on this, with Radiant as well as Amplified. Facet of Hope arc solar void abilities do increase damage against those targets affected by that darkness debuff. This right here is what I was talking about earlier. By that arcane needle, gonna unravel those targets. We got 3 of them, which applies that darkness buff, so our arc and solar abilities in that Helion as well as our arc souls is going to do more damage because of Facet of Courage, so love that little aspect of it, and you can definitely tell that increase in damage. Third off, Facet of Sacrifice. Well, we have arc, solar, or void buff. Ability final blows grant us darkness transcendent energy, which is pretty nice because, like I said, amplification as well as radiant we're going to have pretty consistently, so transcendent on this build we're also getting very quickly, especially if you use your weapons right. We're also going to be using that Facet of Solitude, another way for us to apply a darkness debuff on those enemies with those precision hits, creating a severing blast. Very nice for that little debuff, so we can do more damage with our solar as well as our arc buddies. Now last but not least, we got Facet of Awakening, so rapidly defeating targets with light or dark damage, or our super final blows grant us elemental pickups of the matching type. So with this we're getting fire sprites, ionic traces, as well as tangles so easily with this build, and it's absolutely disgusting. Plus we can use those tangles, shoot them, explode, and they have a very big AoE damage this season, specifically because of one thing on our artifact as well. Now pairing with that for our mods, we're going to be running that triple 100 build for resilience, recovery, as well as discipline. For me, I went with resilience as my number 1, discipline as my number 2, and then recovery as my number 3, because we are getting getting our class ability back pretty quick already with that Phoenix Dive and everything else that we are using, but we do want our grenade as much as possible too, so we can consume it with those Getaway artists. Now we're going to be using Kinetic Siphon as well as Harmonic Siphon for those Orbs of Power. You will see why, as well as that special ammo finder to keep up our sidearm ammo. Kickstarter for our grenade is definitely essential, so when we throw it out or when we consume it, it's going to give us a nice little bit of that energy back when we have that armor charge. Very clutch for keeping those arc souls up consistently. On the flip side, Impact Induction as well as Focusing Strike gives us back our class ability as well as our grenade when we do damage with those powered melees, which helps since we got 3 of them. Me personally went with Solar Resistance twice and Arc Resistance once inside of my chest piece for that resistance, so we can stay alive a little bit better. Totally depends on the activity you are going into. On our legs, we get that health back on those Orbs of Power. Nice for that endgame survivability, plus pairs well with Devour, keeping us alive even more in that endgame activities, with Orbs of Restoration and Absolution helping us to get back our ability grind even more with our melee grenade as well as our class ability. And last but certainly not least, when we use our class ability, we're going to collect all those Orbs of Power, which will help us with that armor charge for grenade Kickstarter, plus Reaper right here, creating even more of them with Bomber to have that little bit of energy come back for our grenade. So the internal feedback loop of our grenade melee class ability with those arc souls as well as that Helion is absolutely disgusting on this build. Now when we go on to our weapons, what is giving us our last little arc soul, if you will, or time soul I call it, is the No Time to Explain. So rewind rounds can return shots to the magazine and open a time portal. That time portal is giving us projectiles that shoot from the depths of time, so it's pretty cool to be able to have arc souls going at people, Helion going at people, as well as those bullets from our little time soul time portal going around, plus the stuns are barrier champions. I went with Aberrant Action because this thing is absolutely disgusting inside of the PvE realm. Went with Incandescent Strategist. That's why I'm getting my class ability back really fast on this build, because the defeats with Strategist is what's giving us that. Plus we're spreading even more Scorch around for that little bit of odd clear potential. Plus that is why we're using Kinetic Siphon as well as that Solar Siphon, so both of these can create us Orbs of Power. Last but not least, that Pro Memoria. This helps us to get that dark energy for that Transcendence. Plus this is our strand weapon that we are using to shoot those tangles for those extra large explosions. Envious Bait and Switch on this thing, also very good for those little bit of extra DPS on those bosses, champions, whatever it can be, especially like we were going through in this GM right here. Now last but not least, we got our artifact, like I said, in the Hunter's Journal, Anti-Barrier Pulse for that No Time, Unstoppable Sidearm for the Ambient Leap, with also this Logic Reducer for the Ambient Leap because of that Radiolarian Transponder. Kind of the same thing here with the Overcharged Weapon, both our LMG as well as our Sidearm because of Dealer's Choice and Radiolaria Transponder. Gonna get a little extra juice when that overload is active. Now we are also having Winning Hand, so that LMG that we have with Dealer's Choice has the combination of the precision final blows or rapidly defeating targets to give us some solar damage and explosions, so beautiful little combination just alone for that. Now this is that threaded blast that I was talking about, so that LMG shooting those tangles are going to create a gigantic explosion, and this thing definitely makes it really big in my personal opinion, way larger than like even 2 times what the normal explosion would be. Elemental Siphon, kinetic weapons, or those weapons matching our super create elemental pickups, so again we're going to create even more of those fire sprites, etc., depending on what we get defeats with. Counter energy right here, getting those stuns on champion gives us that energy for our least charge ability for more ability spam. Picking up Orbs of Power is how we're getting Radiant on this build, helping us with the amplification in Radiant to pair back into our Prismatic subclass to get some of that Darkness Transcendent energy, as well as just get our melee and grenade back a little bit faster with this Shield Crush as well as Transference. Just a little bit of a way for us to get back that Transcendent energy, as well as get whatever it may be, melee grenade, depending on what kind of a buff that we have on our body, on our Guardians. So this build, a little disgusting for basically any type of content you can go into, normal raids, GMs, just going through our Echo Battleground, stuff like that. You're going to have a little army of buddies on your side, from Arc to Solar all the way to those Time buddies, shooting all the enemies autonomously. You barely have have to do a thing with weapons creating orbs of power everywhere. You're getting a bunch of debuffs on enemies in the void variety with Untangle as well as Sever. So the little synergy of this build, pretty disgusting. Transcendent comes almost instantly as well. So Warlocks, y'all gotta definitely try it out. I know you've probably seen variations of this build, and it is very, very good for sure. So 100% check it out. Let me know what you guys think of it. Let me know if there are other variations that you would throw on here. Maybe if we can get ourselves a Void Buddy at the same time, like somebody else using Arc Souls inside of a Rift, and then we use our Secant Filament boost or something like that, would be absolutely disgusting. But let's see what we can do in the future with that. Again, appreciate all you guys for coming back to the channel. Means a lot to me. The support is crazy. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe to the channel. Helps me out, helps out the channel a bunch in that algorithm. Also hit that bell if you have not already to get those notifications on these builds, as well as God roll guides for weapons from these seasons or episodes, whatever we are calling them nowadays. But again, truly appreciate you guys. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.